In part 3 of 3 in Stock and Fukuyama, Clone Wars, Stock comes back and says that outlawing enhancements would be harmful and tyrannical. He says that medical advancements always bring new challenges. We should seek to improve the quality of life, and we should also seek better ways to die with dignity. Fukuyama is terribly mistaken about how government regulation works. The regulation of genetics is a political process run by zealots, that there are things that are being staked out dogmatically without any sort of understanding of genetics or any understanding of the real consequences. Politicians are trying to micromanage something that they cannot, or at least do not, understand. Fukuyama responds, and he actually indicates something that Stock had written himself. He says Stock himself admits the problems with future enhancements. Now, what he's referring to is a book or an article that Stock had written, and Stock talks about some of the downfalls, the potential downfalls of enhancements, and Fukuyama's quick to pick that up. Stock talks about a future, potentially, where reproduction may be done only in the lab. He talks about free alteration of personalities and moods using drugs and genetics, and the future of genetics looks as though it might yield a new kind of speciation, meaning that the enhanced could exceed far and above over the unenhanced, which means that human beings will have two different levels. If I can enhance myself, if I have the financial ability and I'm in a position where I could become genetically different from you, then are we really talking about the same kind of equal human rights? If I have superior genetics to you, and I don't mean just by natural selection, because really, all in all, human beings are a pretty homogeneous species. There is very little difference between somebody who is on the top of the game and someone who is on the bottom of the game. We're all equal human beings, more or less. But if I am enhanced, I am significantly different from you. If I am bred or designed to be smarter, faster, stronger, and in all other ways better than you, what really is holding human rights together? Should the enhanced not have reason to claim a whole new class? Why should we really have to even pay attention to human equality? Those who are enhanced are better and may have every reason to rise above democracy and establish a ruling class. If they really are better than us, then what real grounds do we have to say that they shouldn't? And he said that this sort of game looks more like the politics of Friedrich Nietzsche than of John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill was a great fan of liberty and democracy, and as you know from your readings in the philosophers or ethicists section, a great believer in human equality and human rights. Friedrich Nietzsche, however, was not. And this section is entitled The Nietzschean Endgame. Now, when he makes reference to Friedrich Nietzsche, we haven't studied Friedrich Nietzsche in this class, but Nietzsche was a 19th century philosopher who is really well known for his ethics and his politics that are very much against the general establishment of what we see as, well, really the human rights that we generally think of. Nietzsche was very concerned in his philosophies about an idea called the will to power. And the will to power is the sum of our drives, the sum of our ambitions, and the sum of all that makes us do what it is that we do. And really, if we are following this drive to power, and we have the ability, and we have the natural strength within us, we really should try to overthrow the petty moral constructions and all the societal constructions which pin us down and make us of a slave mentality. That really, human beings really should be living in much greater grandeur than their accustomed to doing. It is only through inherited slave moral structures that make us who we are, that make us mindless cattle, instead of making us the noble, grand people that we ought to be, people who are rising above these powers and who are creating their own sense of justice and their own sense of rule. And his idea really was, in terms of his moral and his political constructions, was of a human being more like a Greek noble than anything else, executing justice as they saw fit and living a free life. This is the concept of the Nietzschean endgame. This is what he means by the thoughts of Friedrich Nietzsche rather than John Stuart Mill.